Hello, my internet friends. Welcome to another video. You may have guessed from the title, this is going to be the wrap-up thoughts for my buddy read with Camila over at Haste Ye Books. I'm very excited to share that with you. If you're new, quick recap. Camila, who is a fellow booktuber and hopefully new internet friend, met with me to do a virtual buddy read collaboration. We recommended each other 5 books, and we each recommended the other person 5 books to read through November. And recently we met up again to give our wrap-up thoughts. So this video covers just the books that Camila recommended me and my thoughts on them. And at some point, she might have already published this, but she will also be posting her version of a wrap-up for the books that I recommended her. And I hope you check out both of them. But without further ado, let us cut to past Jay and past Camila.
Hello to our shared internet friends. We're back. The dynamic duo is back. But I guess to recap what is happening here, in October, Camilla and I met for the first time, virtually, to recommend each other a bunch of books. And throughout November, we read those books. I do want to go first.
Okay, good. I wanted you to go first.
Okay, great. So Camilla recommended me 5 books. To recap, they were Anna Green Gables, Little Women, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, Animorphs, which is the first book in a middle grade sci-fi series. What was it? It was like a bunch of children get the power to shapeshift into animals from an alien.
Classic.
Yeah, a tale as old as time. And the last one was A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Okay, so I have feelings.
Okay, good. I'm happy. I'm keen to hear what you thought, just because I obviously recommended some of them because of your theme of reading these books from when you were younger. So these are some books that stayed in my mind that obviously that you said you didn't read. So I was just okay, I look forward to hearing. I've reread a couple of them as well, just to kind of be able to have this chat.
You said when you laid out these recs to me, you laid them out in least to most weird.
Yes.
And what I've learned about myself is that apparently the weirder the better. I felt the sci-fi out there ones I went through so fast. So for Animorphs and A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, Animorphs really brought me back to my childhood. I felt
it has that vibe.
It does have that vibe. It was weird, and it was just once I decided that the science didn't have to make sense, I had so much fun with it. One note for me was that I felt it was very expository in the beginning.
It's so short. I think because I reread it as well, and I was it's so short that I feel they're just talking about what's happening more than actually doing stuff.
The first 3 chapters is just the alien explaining to these kids, hello, I am this alien. I have the power to shapeshift. There are these other aliens that live amongst you, and they're trying to take over the planet. And this alien's supposed to be dying also, and he doesn't die until
there's no sense of urgency.
No sense of urgency. I still had a great time watching these kids learn how to shapeshift and stuff. It was very cute. I felt delighted. There's a part where when the kids transforms into a cat for the first time, and that was the funniest thing. He was ooh, this is the coolest thing. I feel so strong and powerful, and it's a cat.
Yeah, I think that was really well done. I remembered it very differently, and I think it's because I also watched the TV show when I was little, so I feel it's slightly different. So there's stuff that I remembered that clearly weren't from the book, they were from the show. And also it felt the first book was so short that because I think I read more than one, so I thought that they're all one large book.
Yeah.
But really they're all very small.
Yeah, it felt very episodic because I only read the first book, and it was 4 hours, so it was really the smallest adventure. How long did the TV show run for?
To be fair, I have no idea. I feel it's 1 or 2 seasons, or maybe just 1 season. Let me Google it. So it didn't run for a year, it says. This is season 2. Yeah, season 1 had 20 episodes. That's and then, the season 2 only had a handful of them. They probably got canceled because
It was too weird. The kids were not into it. But yeah, that's how I felt about Animorphs. I was delighted by it. But I was like, in my heart, I can't rate it more than 3 stars. Like,
No, yeah, oh no, definitely.
yeah, I'm 26 years old. I can't like rate this 4 stars. And it's not like Percy Jackson level of amazing, you know.
No,
It was
exactly.
fun.
Yeah.
But that was like a delightful 3 stars. A 12-year-old me would have rated it 4 stars for sure. For the next weird book, which is A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, the hold came in like a few days ago, and I didn't finish it, but I have not stopped reading it. Like every like spare minute I get, I read it. I find it so delightful. I have so many feelings. I think like the main one is like I love the wide like acceptance for like different like species. I guess like the perspective of Rosemary, who's like a human character, whenever she like meets like another like alien character, like she has like this set of practices in her mind where she's like, what is like your given name, or like what would you prefer me to call you, what are your pronouns, and I'm like, this is what you should be doing all the time.
I know. Yeah, it's felt very refreshing when you enter these universes where people just accept others like the way that they are, and there's something really comforting and nice to see like a gentle world like that.
And like it was like nice to like see like humans like not be considered the norm.
Yeah, I love the discussion about the AI as well and our relationship with them. I love that bit as well. Yeah,
I have so many feelings. I'm very excited.
I'm really glad. I feel like that was the one that I thought sounded like it would be like your kind of style of weird. Like, because it has like this vibe, it's like sci-fi, and it's a little bit like, obviously it's not our actual world, but it's also so lovely, and like you said, like the acceptance and all of that, it creates like a mood that's just really great to be in that book, like in that universe.
Yeah, it really does. And it is like my vibe. Like I don't even know how to describe it, but it is like I'm having the best time. So thank you.
I'm glad to hear.
Hi, since we're here, I actually finished A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and I have more thoughts. Like, yes times 1,000 to the themes of acceptance. The metaphorical LGBT plus representation in this is just perfect. There are so many just like ways to conceive gender and sex and romantic relationships or life relationships, and it was really expansive. The author covered so many like different ways to live and different ways to be. I feel like that sounds vague, but hopefully if you read the book, you agree with that statement. And like Camila said, this like kind of thread of acceptance was so comforting and so sweet. You know, just like the way that the crew is so accepting and loving towards each other despite the many differences between each of them and their lived experiences was just, it was beautiful and I loved it. If I had a critique, I think the plot lost direction at some point. In the beginning of the book, like there was so much world building that at some point I kind of felt like the plot had lost itself a little bit. I had almost forgotten what like the end goal or the end destination was. When you start the book, you just want to absorb this whole world and you don't mind all this world building. But then like halfway through the book, it started to slow down and I started to feel like there was a lack of conflict, like a lack of story-based conflict. Overall, I felt like it was a really enjoyable, solid 4 stars. Can you do 4.5 stars on Goodreads? Because if so, I would like to give it the half. I really liked it. It's just that it did start to slow down like halfway through.
The third one you recommended, which was Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, I was surprised by how much I loved it. Yeah, I was expecting like something like Animorphs, where like I would be like, I had a great time, but I'm only gonna like rate it 3 stars. But like I was really impressed by like how well it aged. I don't know, I'm worried that I'm praising it too much, and I don't know, I thought about giving it 5 stars because I was really surprised by like how well the plots aged, especially like Bridget's plot line. She's like pining after her like older like soccer coach, and I'm like and I'm just like, okay, we are just going to accept that this was probably written in the early 2000s. I'm just gonna pretend that she's 18 in this and it's gonna be fine. But then like the author kept pushing. She's 15. I'm like, stop saying that. You're making it really hard to defend my disbelief, because she's going to have a delightful experience with the coach. And I'm going to be like, I don't know about that, but it's going to be fine. And I just had to accept that this was the 2000s. But then, slight trigger warnings, it doesn't go as well for Bridget when she actually like gets what she quote wanted. I was upset because like I just wanted Bridget to be happy, but I felt like that was exactly the appropriate action that I had wanted the book to take, like acknowledging that there's a significant age difference between like a high schooler and a person firmly in college. So I felt like that was really like the correct choice, and I was impressed that the author went there.
It's so funny because when I was reading it, when I was really little, when I read it, maybe like 10, and I actually didn't even get the subtext that they actually go all the way. Like I didn't even get it. Like I was really confused because I was so young.
I am so glad that you said like you wouldn't have caught it, because like if I read it at the age I should have, I absolutely wouldn't have either. In the book, it's implied, and it's one of those like cut to black sort of scenes. Yeah. And then when you cut back to Bridget's perspective, she's, you know, kind of upset and really like out of it. And so like when you're an adult, you understand what probably happened. And as a kid, you're like, why is she sad? Like, I'm confused. Yeah. So I'm like relieved that like I'm not the only one who would have like not gotten it. But it is like really cool that was like at least broached in a book geared for like young people. Also, Carmen's plotline I thought was amazing. Everything about that, like I felt like such pain as she was like visiting her father and like discovered that her father was engaged. And I'm like,
whole new family.
This man didn't even tell her that he was dating someone, which is such bullshit. Like, what the shit?
Yeah.
I had so many feelings about the fact that, you know, like she's like Latinx and her dad's white, and then she comes into this new like white family and she just looks different. And there are people who like they like don't even think twice about like these white like step family members being a part of her dad's family, but they like completely like don't realize that she's the one that's actually related. And I was just like, like I had so many feelings about it. It was so good.
Yeah, I think as an adult, like that's the storyline that I've kind of, I mean, my parents are together, so that's not like that part, but like her story is so compelling. Even today, like you can relate to those feelings of, I guess, like wanting to be accepted and like, the racial elements as well and stuff.
Yeah, like wanting, like everyone feels like they are on the outside of something. It doesn't necessarily have to be because of their race or their skin color, but like everyone can relate to like feeling like an outsider. It's just that Carmen brings this like very like the specific perspective. Brief thoughts on the other two storylines. Timmy's I liked. As a fellow filmmaker, I was very excited by hers, but I was like about it. It was my third favorite. I didn't cry as much as I did with Carmen, like, but so that was like the gauge. And Lena's, I felt like Lena's was okay. Like Lena's storyline was the simplest. When I started the book, I was like, I wish that Lena didn't like boys. I wish that she liked girls, and then in that like her whole storyline was everyone pushing her and Costa together, but then she just like realizes like, hey, I care about you and I love you, but only in a platonic way because I like girls. Like
oh my god, that would have been a great storyline.
Yeah, I know. Like, and I think that could have still like worked as like, I think it's necessary for Lena to like have the happiest storyline.
Yeah, but, I think that's why like maybe it was the most boring, because it's just the one that is the most like least problematic. There's no like problem that arises except her grandpa is just grumpy. But it's really funny because for me is the storyline that when I was little that I liked the most, because obviously because I have my family who live in South America and we would go there on holiday sometimes, and it felt like that dual heritage thing that I really liked. And also I was just like, oh yeah, cute boy on vacation, sure. But I feel like now, like I said, like I think Carmen's story is the one that I feel like more related to now. But it's really funny how at different stages I think it's like different storylines are, I don't know, that you get something from each one differently.
Yeah, I actually like, thank you for, you validate so many of my feelings. I'm so relieved. Because like I was thinking about it, and like, like as a 26-year-old, Carmen's story is my favorite. But I know in my heart that if I was 12 years old, like Lena's would have been my favorite.
Yeah.
It's just so nice. It's so delightful. Like, this is like embarrassing. Like, 12-year-old me would never have admitted that Lena's story was my favorite. I had taken a hard public stance on my thoughts on romance and relationships
Right.
at 12. And I was a firm believer that I was not going to have one.
Okay.
Because at the time, the media I was consuming was like shitty, like romantic comedies that were written by men who didn't understand women. So I was like, if that's what happens, I don't love that.
Don't want it.
So,
yeah.
So I took a very hard public stance on that. But like, I know in my heart, I think I would have enjoyed Lena's story the most. I just wouldn't have told anyone.
And it's funny because I feel like at 16, 17, and potentially like the Bridges storyline is the one that you potentially relate to, like crushing on someone older and potentially these first few kind of adventure, like sexual things that aren't quite what you expected, and like all of that, like, so it's just so interesting. And I'm sure like the whole someone close to you passing away and like the time is running out kind of thing also comes, like depending on where you are and how people are around you as well. Like if you experience that would hit you in a different way as well.
You're gonna get something out of it, like at each stage of your life that you read it, especially if like you're going through something kind of simpler. So I really like that. It was
I'm so glad.
It was an unexpected 4 stars for me. I was very enthusiastic about it.
That's the one that I thought, oh no, she's gonna think that's so so like you said, like romance from like, and like girl story from like the 2001 or whatever it was.
I mean, I didn't expect to dislike it, but I felt like I was going into it with like, I lowered the bar a little bit. Like I thought that this was I low-key thought that this was going to be like your like guilty pleasure, like perhaps it didn't age as well, but I still liked it. Like my entire shelf is like shitty YA books. Like, so like I had no judgments about that. It's like, oh my gosh, Camilla's human. She also likes books that
oh, I love all kinds of books.
Okay, great. But so like I would not have judged if I ended up being like about it, because like every book I have on my shelf right now is meh at best. So like but no, like that was like a big surprise for me. So like good job. And then the last 2, which were the more normal choices, were Little Women.
Classic,
The classics in Anna Green Gables. I found them delightful. I think that like my brain is just like not wired for like things that are even like slightly more intelligent than Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Because while I did enjoy them, like sometimes like it would be slower. Like I'd be like, okay, but like what alien does Rosemary meet next? Like again, like I enjoyed them, but I think like my brain is more like wired towards weird sci-fi and fantasy nonsense. So I was like,
so you would like the classics that are like Pride and Prejudice and zombies, like that would be more like towards your kind of
I hate that you mentioned that one, because I did really like Pride and Prejudice and zombies.
Well, it's just I recently, oh no, I think that was a TV show. Do you know the TV show Younger, about a woman who goes back? And in that they actually pitch a Little Women sci-fi, like they become astronauts, and I was like, wait, I want to read that. And then I was like, oh no, that was in the TV show, but I would totally read that.
We have to buy the rights to that right now.
No,
like
I just thought it was real for a second, and I remembered it wasn't, and I was like disappointed. But I feel like those twists make them a bit more, I guess, modern. So I really like those classics that have been reinvented with like sci-fi or fantasy, like you said.
But I like Little Women because, first of all, like if you read this when you were 12, like you are the smartest 12-year-old I've ever like come across, because like 12-year-old me would have had no patience. 12-year-old me would have been like, I'm gonna read Percy Jackson again. But I really liked Little Women because I watched the movie, when it came out in 2019, and I love the movie. Like I think about it
so
all
good.
the time. It is so good, and I felt like the 2019 version was a really like good adaptation, and it really like updated in a way that was accessible for people like me who have never read the book. I still like relate so strongly to Jo. Like
yeah, she's my favorite.
she is so still my favorite. Like she also took a hard stance against romantic relationships when she was a youth. I think that like her progression to like coming around to being like, I mean, I do kind of want to kiss a man, so like I kind of want, and her getting married, I felt like that was really like realistic. I thought it was interesting in the movie that like it was portrayed as like a really like sudden change for her. I don't know if you have any thoughts or any insight on the history of the book or the movie. In the movie, they like, it cuts to like Jo like talking to like a publisher who's like, your main character needs to end up married. Yeah. She's like, it seems like implied that like Jo the author kind of like made that narrative choice for the money. But I was surprised that like having read that first, I was surprised that in the book I felt like the relationship was so natural. I was like, oh, okay, so maybe this is like what the narrative choice that the author truly was going for. So I don't know. I thought that was
think so. In the movie, I know that the choice that was taken is because Louisa May Alcott actually was unmarried, so it was portrayed as almost like her being Jo with the publisher. Mm-hmm. So like she's like, no, I'm not getting married, I want to get my book published, fine, let's marry her at the end. Mm-hmm. Because that's what he wants, right? So let's publish that. But at the end, like she's her with her book, and everything else is like just in the story. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of imagining for people.
Got it. But it was so very great. I still love Jo. Amy is a strong second favorite, but I think that like part of it is because like she would have taken first because like I'm too like influenced by how well Florence Pugh was.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think she made me like that character because I really disliked her before.
Really? That's so funny. Like maybe because I had seen the movie first, I was already like, Amy, my beautiful baby, like every time she came on the screen. So like maybe if it was flip-flopped, I wouldn't have liked her as much. But I was like, when Laurie started to like have feelings for her, I was like, yes, foster those feelings, Laurie. It makes sense for you to be together.
Oh, I was so mad when I was little. I was just could not comprehend how Jo said no. I was so mad. And it's funny because I was an adult now. I'm just like, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
But I've just always felt like Amy almost was betraying, but Jo never wanted to be with him. So I guess she wasn't betraying anything. So it's just the perspective you have when you're...
Yeah, same. I absolutely, when I was told, I would have been like, Amy, you betrayed your sister. How could you? And like as an adult, like when I see it so clearly, Laurie and Jo would have hated each other. They would have like torn each other to shreds. Like nothing about the relationship like ever suggested that they would work romantically. And in the book, like Jo is so happy for them, because in the movie they also changed that where like she has,
that was very changed so much when she was like, oh yeah, I'll get married to him, and I was like, what? I think it was just to create a little bit of that scene, that amazing scene when she's just like, I just want
like
someone to love me. Like I'm lonely. Oh God, such a great scene.
Yeah, like I want to be both. I want to be like strong, independent woman, but I also want like love. It was like
very relatable.
Very relatable. I mean, like not to talk about the movie when we're talking about your favorite.
The movie's so good though.
Thank you. I'm so glad you think so. It was so good. But like this is gonna be a little mean towards Emma Watson, but like also she's so rich, so like I don't necessarily feel bad.
You're not pushing down, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But like Emma Watson has the weakest acting chops in my opinion. There's that scene where she's getting married and like Jo is like in front of her, she's like, run away with me and like we will be interesting forever. And I could hear like the pain like in her voice. I felt like hearing Jo's like beautiful monologue and then Emma Watson's response, I was like, oh, Emma's acting. And I thought I believe that Saoirse Ronan was Jo like in this moment, and then like the response, I was like, Like, I don't know what it was about it, but I was just like,
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I
it.
think that, to be fair, she has the weakest character. Wait, what's her character's name?
Meg.
Meg. Yeah, I feel like she's the most kind of not boring character, but she's also the one who's just like, she just goes and she's nice and she gets married and it's just like, all of this is fine. But also, I did find that her American accent, to me, weakened her performance as well. Not that I think she's an amazing actress, because I don't really know. I've just seen her in Harry Potter. But I feel like she was trying to act this American accent that she doesn't have, and it was a bit weird to me as well.
Maybe that was it. Like, because I think I've heard like conversations about her American accent also not being super great in Beauty and the Beast. So maybe that was it. Like, maybe it was just like, maybe there are other takes that sounded better, but she's clearly British in them.
Exactly. Because I think the guy who plays her husband is actually also British. And like, my husband and I, when we watch these things, and we're just like, wait, this person's trying to sound American, but they really struggle when they're opposite other British actors. But that's our thing, that we're like weirdly nerdy when we watch stuff and we try to notice.
Is your husband British?
He is, yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. So he was like, aha, I see. I can hear it in your voice. Yeah, those are my thoughts on Little Women. For Anne of Green Gables, I loved it a lot. I thought it was delightful. Yeah, like I felt like Anne has like such big feelings like all the time.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite part of that book. It's just her inner monologue and outer dialogue, and she's just so effervescent.
Yes, like she's so passionate about things, and she also, like, when she's angry, she just not take shit from other people. Like who's the boy that like made fun of her hair one time, and then she like held a grudge for like until she was like a young adult. Gilbert. Like, she's like, oh, I hate you, Gilbert, blah blah blah. Like she does not take shit when like someone's mean to her. Also, I love how like when she decides that she has this grudge on Gilbert, she's like, I don't think about him at all, but I must be one of my class to defeat Gil. I mean, just people in general.
She's always talking about him when being like, no, I won't spare a thought to him.
I know. Oh my God. She's so funny. Like, I love her big feelings. I'm like, and the opposite of love isn't hate. It's apathy. And you are so not apathetic towards Gilbert. I feel like she rejects like some of the ways that society encourages women to like be, like, because I feel like all the books I read when I was a youth were like in the vein of like, I'm not like other girls, I do sports, which is annoying. But like those archetypes from those shitty YA books I was reading were like, those girls are always like quiet and like reserved, and those are all the ways that society wants women to be. But Anna's not like that. She's opinionated, she's loud, but she's still very like embracing of her femininity. So I love that.
That's such a great way to say it. That's great observations.
Thank you. But yeah, I loved her, and the ending, Camila, like when Matthew, I guess, spoiler alert.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. It's so funny because I hadn't read it, so I read it earlier this year. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't read it since I was very little, like 8 or something.
Oh my God.
I still remember I actually stopped halfway through, and I realized when I was reading it that I had never gone back to finish it, because it's when she she's accused of stealing the brooch, and then she's sent away, and I was just like, I closed the book and I was like, this is the most unfair thing to do to Anne, so I will not finish reading this book. And so when I picked it up earlier this year and I decided to read it, and I realized I'd finish it, and I was just like shocked by the end. I was like, did not expect it at all.
I was sobbing. I was dead. Like I was beside myself. And Marilla like proclaims like, like, and like, I love you so much. Like, I know that I don't really show it, and I know that you think that Matthew always loved you best, but I loved you just as much. I'm like, I'm dead. Like, I'm done. Like, I can't even, like, it brings tears back into my eyes. Like, that was such a good ending.
It was, yeah. It's so good. It's so funny because I don't know if you've seen it. There's a TV series that Canada did. It's on Netflix here. I don't know if you have it over there.
Ooh, but I think I do have it. It's Anne with an E.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, it's a truly, truly beautiful adaptation of that book. And they play on this whole idea of Marilla and Matthew being very, like, they show they care in actions and not in words, which is the opposite of Anne. So it's really it's a big recommend. It was really beautiful, and they've changed a couple things. So I'd watched this series before I reread it in January. So Matthew doesn't die in the series.
Okay.
So that's why I was like totally blindsided when it happened in the book. To be fair, so the series of books continues because there's a couple different ones, which I think the book, the TV series actually goes into some of the other books.
I think I knew that because like I never watched the series, but like I had seen like a gif of it. So like I was under the impression that like Anne and Gilbert were gonna kiss at the end of this book, like because I didn't realize there were more than one book. And so like it, like one of the parts at the end was like they reconcile, they become friends, and I was like, and kiss, and I'm like I had like predicted that like Gilbert was gonna have this like bold declaration of love, and Anne was gonna be like, yes, I do love you, and then like they're gonna kiss, and then they didn't, and I was like, like,
yeah, I also
books.
expected that because also I mean, it's a spoiler, but I know that in the books, I don't know, in the later in the series, I think they do end up getting married, but I think that's a couple books on, and this their lives when they are together living on PI when they're married or something. So I know that happened at some point.
Now I'm gonna have to read it because I want to see them married.
I know, I haven't read the other ones as well. We can buddy read the whole series if you want.
Oh, that would be very cute.
It's really lovely to read. Like, also it's obviously kind of at the turn of the 20th century, also around the time that Canada became Canada, and it's really interesting. The TV series like talks a lot about like the treatment of Indigenous people as well at the turn of when that happened, when Canada became a country. So I feel like that's the political that they brought into like a modernization, especially also with women wanting to go to college and stuff like that. So I thought that they touched on so much.
That's very cool. I definitely want to read some of that. I'm gonna have to carve out time in my 2022 for it. But yeah, those are all my thoughts.
I'm so glad that you liked the books. Yeah. Hopefully it was, you know, you like them and you're not just trying to pick what was positive about them.
No, I found them delightful. Like I was like, this is the best. I was filled with so much anguish like before like we would meet, because I'm like, I don't know like what books I'm gonna recommend. Like this is the most terrifying experience of my life, because I'm a very exaggerated person. I guess I am kind of like Anne. I don't have small feelings.
It's funny because I also, when you gave me your picks, I was just like, oh my God, these are so interesting. And I've just given her a bunch of like these romance, like teenage books. And I was like, oh gosh, like I'm aware, like you said, like 12-year-old you would have loved Animorphs kind of thing, you know? And it's like based on a lot of things that I read when I was younger. So it was a bit, how well did things age? And I'm really pleased to hear how Sisterhood Traveling Pants, because that's the one that I was really worried hadn't aged well. Well, except Animorph, but that's a whole other issue.
That's a whole other thing. I mean, I felt that way about the books I picked. I was like it kept me up at night, some of the books I recommended you. But oh my gosh, we did it.
We did, but it was really fun. I feel like it was a really fun experience to like pick each other's books, and I feel like we should definitely do this again.
Yes, I want you to go like challenge me more and try to like give me like harder books, because like
I'll go for a different vibe next time. Yeah,
I will try to like update my reading taste to be more
I love these recommendations, honestly.
Okay, thanks for doing this with me, and thank you to whoever is watching for, you know, making it all the way to this end. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we like to talk, and hopefully people like to hear us talk as well.
And that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much, Camila, for being the best. You were delightful. I hope that this is the beginning of a beautiful internet friendship, and I hope that this was the first of many buddy read collaborations between the two of us. Okay, bye.